Hello everyone, this is Professor DePaulo. Welcome back to Psych 265, Behavioral Research, fully online. And today we're going to be talking about how to write the introduction section of your APA manuscript. So basically, the APA manuscript is based off of the research study that you're conducting. And in this class, I had everyone complete a survey previously that looked at social connectedness and a variety of behavioral and psychiatric correlates of social connectedness. So in this study, we're looking to see if social connectedness is related to difficulties in terms of negative mental health states such as anxiety and depression. We're also interested in social connectedness is linked to physical symptoms that we're measuring vis-a-vis somatization. And we're also looking at whether social connectedness is correlated with more tangible factors, performance-based factors like academic performance, in which GPA is a measure of academic performance. So there's a couple of things we're testing here in this study. You completed the survey online, and now we're going to write up the survey for the whole semester. So do not submit anything about a different study, right? So all your submissions are about this study that we're conducting as a class. The study is looking at social connectedness related to both physical and mental problems, physical and mental health problems. You completed the survey online. That is what all the writing assignments are going to be about. Do not submit a different study that you found somewhere and summarize that study as being, or write the introduction of the study being related to the one you found online. No, everything you're writing is related to this survey. That way I clear that up, because that happens every semester as people start writing their own thing, and I don't want that to happen. So if we're going to write the introduction, we need to look at the instructions, which are available in the written assignment section. So you're going to go to content. You're going to look here. You see introduction here with the little symbol, the paper symbol. This is where you're going to load your assignment. You're going to upload your PDF file here. But if we want to know how to write the assignment, we're going to look at writing the introduction of the APA manuscript. These are the instructions. And we can see that it's going to be 8 paragraphs long, sorry. And it's going to take up approximately 3 pages in length, double space. The first 2 paragraphs are defining the problem. What is the problem? Well, in this case, the problem is the relationship between social connectedness and physical and mental health. That's the problem, but we also want to know why it's important. So in those first 2 paragraphs, you're going to discuss what the problem is and why the problem is important to study. And there's a lot of reasons for it. You do not have to cite in the first 2 paragraphs, so you don't need citations, but you need to structure it so I know, why am I studying this? And if you think about social connectedness, it's important in terms of mental and physical health, right? And this is a bigger problem because of the pandemic. The pandemic disrupted our social networks. I'm not talking about online social networks like Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever that stuff is. I don't really consider that social connectedness, although some people lump it in with that definition. Social connectedness is kind of how close you are, how connected you are to other people, and you don't really get that connection through social media. At least most people don't. So when the pandemic hit, you could FaceTime or you can Snapchat or you can do whatever. But is it the same as being out and about and hanging out with your friends, going to school, meeting people, hanging out with your classmates, talking to them? Is it the same experience? No. Teaching the classes online like we're doing now, is it the same experience as being in the classroom? No. Being in the classroom, you're going to meet other people. You're going to communicate with other people. You're going to have more of a relationship with your professor. Now, there are benefits to being online. The biggest benefit is it's flexible. So if you work a very busy job, or you can't get down to class, nothing's being offered at night, or you don't want to be working on the weekend, going to class on the weekend, you take an online class and you can do it when you're free. So it gives you maximum flexibility, but the trade-off is the connection. You don't have the same connection with your classmates or with your professors. You can make a connection, it just requires a lot more work on your part. Now, during the pandemic, there were lots of problems connecting to other people. A lot of isolation, a lot of stay in your house, stay in your apartment, don't go outside. And that had a negative impact on people, on kids and also adults. But if you think about schooling, you had people that were doing school online. That's certainly not the same as doing school in person. It's a definitely different experience. And there were a lot of negatives to it. And could that lack of social connectedness due to the pandemic and other factors, the other factor being that we live in an online world, and we're very busy, so we like to schedule things at different times when we're free, right? You may not have the time to meet at a certain time during the week for a class, but you can do an online class and do whatever you want. So our society is moving in that direction where we're kind of working remotely and taking online. And how are are there positive or negative outcomes for that? And in a lot of studies, there are negative outcomes. So you fail to develop social connectedness with your peers, with your school, and that leads to problems. During the pandemic, many people were isolated, many people were lonely, and that led to elevated rates of anxiety, depression, and also physical symptoms. Now that we're out of the pandemic, we are trying to go back to sort of normality, but what's happened is that the technology has rapidly increased. So our society changed during the pandemic in a way that made us even more remote oriented. So before the pandemic, we had online classes, but there were only a small amount of people that took them. Now, once the pandemic happened and everybody got used to doing everything online, there's a huge demand for now online for everything. And this is all aspects of life. You no longer have to go to your doctor in person. You could do virtual. And it's convenient because you don't have to go to the office. You could do it at home. You could do your therapy sessions at home, which I think are problematic. I'd rather go to the office and see my therapist. But most therapy now is done remotely, online, and done in your home. So there are benefits, there are pluses, and there are minuses. And that's why the problem is important, is because our society has moved to a more online-oriented society where there's less meeting in person and more meeting online and more remote everything. Even think about like ordering food. So before the pandemic, you'd order food, you'd call the place up, you talk to somebody, then you had to open the door when the food was delivered. And you said, hello, thank you for the food, you paid them, you tipped them, and that was it. There was an interaction. Now you call DoorDash or Grubhub, and you check the box, leave the food at the door. And you don't even have to see anybody. You pay online, you order online, they leave the food at the door, you don't have to answer, so you don't have to call, you don't have to answer the door. Our society is becoming a lot more distant. And you could do that with everything. You could do that with your groceries. You could do that with your food. You can do it with pretty much anything in the world now. You do not have to leave your house. So it's like an agoraphobic's paradise. Agoraphobia is when people have a fear of leaving their safety zone, which is usually the house. But that's pathological in itself if it's an agoraphobic's paradise. There is something lost by not interacting with other people in our society. We're doing it less and less. So the pandemic accelerated it. So it's a very important topic. Like social connectedness, becoming more and more disconnected by the day? And are there negative effects of that? And the answer is most likely yes. Are those effects academic? Are those effects behavioral? Are those effects psychiatric, physical? That's what we're looking at in the study. But those first two paragraphs should be what we're studying, which is social connectedness and the health outcomes, both physically and mentally, connected to it. And why it's important is because we're moving away from a connected society to a very fluid, very, I want to say disconnected society, but, less in-person society. Can you make friendships on Zoom? Can you form connections on Zoom or on Microsoft Teams or on whatever online, FaceTime? Can you meet people on there and form a connection? I guess. Is it the same as if you meet them in person? Probably not. At least according to me. But then again, I grew up at a time when we didn't have all the technology, so I was used to face-to-face. Now, if you're Generation Z and you grew up with technology constantly since you were a little kid, maybe you don't need that face-to-face interaction. But these are all important questions to research. And that's what we're doing. So those first two paragraphs, what the problem is and why it's important, give me 2 solid paragraphs about that. You do not need to cite in those first 2 paragraphs. Now, paragraphs 3 through 7 is the literature review. So you need to find 5 articles, research articles. Each article is going to deal with one of the 5 hypotheses. Here are your 5 hypotheses. Positive correlation between social connectedness and life satisfaction. Negative correlation between social connectedness and anxiety and depression. Negative correlation between social connectedness and somatization. Right. Academic performance, i.e. GPA, is positively correlated with social connectedness, and social connectedness is negatively correlated with stress. I gave you very simple hypotheses, 5 simple hypotheses to test. These can all be looked at in terms of correlation. Remember that positive correlation means they go in the same direction. Negative correlation means they go in opposite directions. Now you're going to go do the literature review, and you're going to find an article for each of these 5 hypotheses for a total of 5 total articles. So the first article will be on a positive correlation between social connectedness and life satisfaction. Go find an article about this that's been done already. And that can be done on Google Scholar, it can be done on PsycInfo. So let's do Google Scholar since it's the easiest. And then you just type in life satisfaction and social connectedness, and you got a whole bunch of articles. Make sure you use the ones that are available. So if you don't see anything next to it here, that means you might have to pay for it. Do not pay for anything. Like this one doesn't have a link, so this one might not have it. So let's click on this. And I hit read the full article. And it doesn't let me do it. It tells me if I want to buy the article, I got to pay $56. Now, there's no way in hell I'm paying $56 for this. And neither should you. Do not pay for these articles. If you can't find them, go find a different article. There's no reason. Now, this one you might be able to find on PsycInfo, but I'm not sure. The journal is American College Health. I don't know if we subscribe to that journal. Well, we can look. So I'm just going to copy and paste the title. I'm going to look in the library system now. So you want to go to BMCC. And you want to go to library. So you see library on top here. Go to library. Let's see if I can find this article. We want psychology database by subject. We want psychology. And then we want PsycInfo or Psych articles. Either of these is fine. I use PsycInfo, but they're the same pretty much. You want to log in with CUNY. Your CUNY ID, which I already logged in with. Now I'm going to see if that article is here. So I just paste it in here. And it looks like we have it. So here we didn't have it in Google Scholar, but the library system has it. So I'm able to get this article through the library, and I can either get a text or a PDF. Doesn't matter. Now, if this is the article we want to use, we want to at least read the abstract, make sure that this is related to what we're talking about. So this is online survey looking at life satisfaction, social connectedness, similar to what we're doing as a class, an online survey. And there was a higher social connectedness and life satisfaction than another group of students, ICS students. And initial counseling session versus not in counseling. Okay, so it's looking at... So there was a significant increase in social connectedness and life satisfaction. So that makes sense. If this looks like it's going to make sense for you, you're going to read the whole article. You can skim the results because you may not understand everything they do. Right, although this is pretty basic. It's correlations mainly. But if you don't understand the results, skim the results and focus on the discussion afterwards. And here they have something called conclusion. So here they're saying that there was a connection between social connectedness and life satisfaction, which is what you want. It's what we hypothesized. Now, if you don't want this article, this is not the best article, by the way. Let's say we don't want this article. Let's go back to Google Scholar, find another article. Here's one with college students. They have the PDF here. And if I skim the abstract, I find that social connectedness is indirectly influencing life satisfaction. So if that looks interesting to you, read the article, give me a 1-paragraph summary of it, and make sure you cite it, author, year. And as you can see in this paper, you have all kinds of citations. So everything in parentheses here is a citation. So what they've done is they paraphrased the material. This is what you're going to do. You're going to paraphrase the material, the article, parts of the article. That means put it in your own words, talk about it in your own words, and then cite parentheses author, year. That's what you're going to do. Cite author, year. Do not use direct quotes in this. We don't use direct quotes in psychology. We always paraphrase and cite author, year. You also want to write scientifically. So do not use I, do not use we, you, are. Don't use any of that stuff. That's like if you're writing a blog. Instead, write with, scientific clarity. You don't see anything here talking about I did this or we did that. There's nothing here about it. It's very formal writing. So none of that stuff. And make sure when you paraphrase, you cite. So you give credit to the authors of the article you're borrowing from. So I want 1 article for each of the 5 hypotheses for a total of 5 articles and 5 paragraphs. 1 paragraph per study. Okay, and you can use Google Scholar and you can use PsycInfo. Whatever you want to use, you can use. Whatever is easier for you. 1 article for each of these 5 hypotheses. 1 paragraph summarizing those articles for each of these 5 hypotheses. So those are paragraphs 3 through 7. Paragraph 8 is just the hypotheses. So all you have to do is take these 5 hypotheses and put them together into a paragraph. And that's paragraph 8. So you'll say the following hypotheses will be tested in this study. The first hypothesis is this. Second hypothesis, third, fourth, fifth. And you're just going to write them into a paragraph form. And that's it. That's your 8 paragraphs. So these lit review paragraphs should be pretty, a decent size. right? So you want pretty substantial paragraphs in the literature review because it's one paragraph per article. Make sure you're following the directions. Most of the problems in this class is when students do not follow the directions. You must follow the directions. You cannot just write what you want and write on the articles that you want. You must find 5 articles related to each of the 5 hypotheses. So one article for each of these 5 hypotheses, then summarize the article, cite, paraphrase, and cite the article in each of these 5 paragraphs, right? And that makes up your literature review. Then put them all together put all these hypotheses together from paragraph 8, and you're done. You have 8 paragraphs. You'll have around 3 pages, double spaced, and you've done the introduction. Then when you're done, you're save it as a PDF. Make sure it's double spaced. Make sure it's 12-point font, 1-inch margins. When it's all done and you're ready to upload it, you're going to go to written assignments and you're going to click this link introduction. See where this little symbol is, and that's where you're going to upload it. You're going to add attachment, right? And you're going to upload it. And then it's going to check to make sure you're not plagiarizing. So it's going to use Turnitin to make sure you're not plagiarizing. Now, plagiarism is when you copy and paste. So do not copy and paste. Always put things in your own words. That's paraphrasing. And then when you're done, you uploaded it, you're done. Very basic introduction, nothing too complex. But you need to get the articles, you need to read the articles, and you need to be able to summarize the articles. And then make sure you paraphrase and cite within those articles. Should be no direct quotes. And that's pretty much it for the introduction. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, you have my email. Please drop me a line. And I will be back for the second part of the paper, the method section. And that's a really easy section to do. So the introduction is a little more work, but the method is pretty basic. So the next section is going to be pretty basic. Put a little more time into the introduction. If you have questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you online at a later date. Good luck. Hope you're enjoying the course. And like I said, feel free to drop me a line. Take care. See you soon.